For the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
All right, folks, hold on to your butts. Vaccination cards will be issued to everyone getting the CV vaccine, health officials say. The Department of Defense released the first images of a CV vaccination record card and vaccination kits Wednesday. Vaccination cards will be issued as the simplest way to keep track of CV-19 shots, said Dr. Kelly Moore, Associate Director of the Immunization Action Coalition, the IAC, which is supporting frontline workers who will administer the CV-19 vaccinations. And here's a look at the card. It has the CDC's regalia. Everyone will be issued a written card that they can put in their wallet that will then tell them what they had and when their next dose is due. Let's do the simple, easy thing first. Everybody's going to get that. Vaccination clinics will also be reporting to their state immunization registries what vaccine was given, so that, for example, an entity could run a query if it didn't know where a patient got a first dose. Moore said many places are planning to ask patients to voluntarily provide a cell phone number so they can get a text message telling them when and where their next dose is scheduled to be administered. Every dose administered will be reported to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said Claire Hannon, Executive Director of the Association of Immunization Managers. Lots of associations here. The CDC did not immediately respond to CNN's inquiry about whether such a database would include a record of everyone immunized. Probably because they thought that was a really stupid question. As far as vaccine kits, the DoD image shows the kits include a card, a needle, a syringe, alcohol wipes, and a mask. Operation Warp Speed has 100 million vaccine kits ready to go if and when distribution of a CV vaccine starts, General Gustav Perna, Warp Speed's chief operating officer, said last month. And we covered General Perna. The images come as two companies, Pfizer and Moderna, await emergency use authorizations in the United States. A panel with the FDA is expected to discuss whether to authorize the EUAs on December 10 and December 17. Should Pfizer and Moderna get the authorization, the vaccine's first shipments could happen December 15th and 22nd, respectively, according to a document from the federal government's Operation Warp Speed. By February, 100 million Americans could be vaccinated against the CV. The United States has said if both Pfizer and Moderna win FDA emergency use authorization in December, they could distribute 40 million doses of vaccine by the end of the month. Each vaccine requires 2 doses, so that's enough to fully vaccinate 20 million people. When you look at the logistics behind getting out the vaccine, the idea of distributing each dose of vaccine with a pair of gloves, a syringe, a mask, that's a military idea. And the fact that they didn't have approval for the vaccines, but were able to put 100 million of these kits together, also a military idea. So it's like we can't get the logistics of the actual vaccines done, so we're going to get the logistics of everything around the vaccine done. Why? Well, because Operation Warp Speed's part of the military. For me, the crux of the problem centers around this damn card. Because what the card does is it makes it easy for entities that are not official entities to use this for identification. I released an episode like a week ago about the how Ticketmaster is trying to figure out a way to track people's CV status and their vaccination status. Well, that episode is pretty much null and void now because Ticketmaster doesn't have to worry about figuring out a way to track CV status. Everybody's going to have a written card in their pocket. So now that the government's providing this, any private entity can just start asking for it. And eventually, every private entity will start asking for it. And somebody's going to have to take this to the Supreme Court. It will have to go to the Supreme Court because you're basically creating the second form of identification that will be able to determine what class citizen you are. Like, are you able to travel via plane or train? Well, you're going to have to show us your papers. And this is not going to be something that's just going to happen. It will be challenged in court, as it should be. It'll be tested in court, and like things have been going recently, it'll fail. And just like we've been saying on this channel for so long, the Python grip, the squeeze that people are going to feel if they don't get the roll up your sleeve, that squeeze will be a social pressure like we've seen rolled out in China with the social credit system and what we've seen here with the control factors over the masks. I did an episode a while back called The Mask, the Apps, the Vax. It still stands to this day, I would say. But this isn't the first time. You guys, and the military's been doing this for a long time. Those of you who have served will recognize this little gem, the International Certificate of Vaccination, as approved by the World Health Organization. This little gem was given to soldiers before they deployed. It's a shot record. And if you went overseas, you had to have this. You had to have it on you. So the U.S. has been participating in this stuff for a while already. Sure, the dry runs were with the military, but isn't it interesting that the military has been keeping track of everybody in all of the services and their vaccinations, and now they're in charge of rolling out this nationwide vaccination. If there was any group that was going to be able to track the vaccine on a large scale, it would be the military, who already tracks all of the vaccination records of the soldiers. So it's no surprise to me that the military is handing out a card, but it is a little scary because it will be, you don't have to get the vax, but if you want to go shopping, go to a movie, take public transportation, go on vacation, swim in a pool, go to the bar, you're going to have to show your papers. And so the card itself is quite worrying, not because of the card itself tracking us, because they're going to be doing that in a new database, which we're about to get into, but because private entities will try to use that as an exclusionary measure. You won't be able to board an aircraft without it. You won't be able to go to a concert without showing it. That's the problem with the little cards. Problem with the database is that they have created it under the auspices of, we need to know what vaccine was given to the individual, and we need to know when they're due for their second shot. So basically, if Bob gets his first shot and it's the Pfizer mRNA vaccine, and then 2 weeks later he's in Connecticut on business and he has to get his second shot, they want the hospital in Connecticut to be able to look up Bob's record, see that he got the Pfizer shot so that they can match it and give him the Pfizer shot for his second shot. That's the concept. Now, because of this, they had a company called Palantir, which we've actually talked about on this channel before. It is a classic deep state data theft and processing center that the intelligence agencies use to do all sorts of nefarious things. Palantir was tapped to create the system that is going to be used to track every single person who gets this vaccine, and personally, I believe the people who don't. Palantir helps HHS develop Tiberius system to track CV vaccine production distribution. Now notice in the title, it says production distribution. Let's read the first paragraph. Palantir Technologies is working on software for a new system that could help federal officials track the production, administration, and distribution of CV vaccines. So while the title talks about essentially what would be just a supply chain program that would be keeping track of shipments and distribution, down in the first paragraph, you realize that it will also be tracking the administration of the vax. Now, like I said, Palantir has been used for all kinds of nefarious things, but recently it's gotten a lot of use because Peter Thiel, the guy who created it, co-founder of Google and all-around deep state dude, is actually a friend of Trump. And the company Palantir, which is, let me be clear, an inherently evil company and should not be able to exist, works with the patriotic intelligence community and has branded itself as the America First deep state data theft company. I'm not even joking. It's as weird as this little handhold that's going on. It's very bizarre. So let's get back into the article. The Tiberius system would collect data from federal agencies, local and state governments, pharmaceutical firms, and distributors, and enable health officials to integrate a wide range of demographic, employment, and public health data sets to identify the location of priority populations and make decisions when it comes to allocating vaccine doses according to documents obtained by the publication. A spokeswoman for the Department of Health and Human Services said the system adopts the same software running on HHS Protect, a data collection and analysis platform from Palantir, and is used by HHS to track hospital data related to CV patients. So Palantir already has a program working with Health and Human Services tracking hospital data on CV-19 patients, and this system is called HHS Protect. The spokeswoman added that Tiberius will not cover personally identifiable information. And what that tells me is that when you roll up your sleeve, you're going to also get a number. And that number is going to be what the Tiberius system tracks. And their assertion will be that it is then a non-identifiable system, so that you can't actually identify who the people are. They just want to keep track of the number. It doesn't matter the name, which is, of course, all horse hockey. They're using this centralized platform to integrate from federal agencies, local and state governments, pharmaceutical firms, and distributors. And they're going to enable the health officials to get access to all this information. And if you read the company's prospectus, you can see this new twist on data theft and information warfare. Our society has effectively outsourced the building of software that makes our world possible to a small group of engineers in an isolated corner of the country. The question is whether we want to outsource the education of some of the most consequential moral and philosophical questions of our time. The engineering elite of Silicon Valley may know more than most about building software, but they do not know more on how society should be organized or what justice requires. Our company was founded in Silicon Valley, but we seem to share fewer and fewer of the technology sector's values and commitments. From the start, we repeatedly turned down opportunities to sell, collect, or mine data. Other technology companies, including some of the largest in the world, have built their entire businesses on doing just that. So they market themselves as the little guy that hates data companies, but they are a gigantic data company, and it's nonsense. Let's read about some of the things that Palantir has done in the past. We already read about the system in HHS that they have to track CV patients. Let's find out what else they've been tracking for the government. Hey, you know what's a terrifying company? Palantir, the data-oriented intelligence firm co-founded by Peter Thiel, with $2 million in seed money from the CIA's venture capital firm In-Q-Tel. Really? So, once again, we see another company that is being financed through seed money through an intelligence agency. I wonder what would happen if we, at this point in the article, decided let's think about Palantir, this dark data collection company that lies and says it's this amazing thing to protect democracy, and let's hold it next to the Dominion and Smartmatic companies, these lying, deceitful, obscure voting companies that say they are actually the most patriotic companies in the world by securing our elections. I wonder if there's any parallels. Well, we found one. They were both started from CIA seed money. I wonder if there would be any more. This week, the New York Times reported that Palantir employee in London came up with the idea to use a bullshit personality quiz as a digital carrot to convince people to give them their personal data, and inadvertently that of everyone they know. A suggestion that he sent to Cambridge Analytica, who then deployed it to gain access to the contents of 50 million Facebook profiles. A trove of information. So this is the Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened in the 2016 election. What they're saying is that an employee from Palantir is the one who gave that proprietary information to Cambridge Analytica that allowed them to go and do what they did. which they just spelled out in this article. The author goes on to say, yeah, but that could be called a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory, however, to say Palantir is creepy as hell. For one thing, the company has ways to track us that make Cambridge Analytica's Facebook mining seem quaint, including surveillance techniques that are already being used by police departments and government agencies such as ICE. And if you'll remember, I did that video on the intelligence data center in Chicago that was moving the Chicago Police Department to various places during the riots. And we went pretty deep down into where those centers came from. They have an old history, and now after 9/11, they're like, it's like the whole country is a brain, and there's these nerve synapses that are in each spot, and they're just passing massive amounts of data to and from each other. And companies like Palantir are creating operating systems that allow them to access this information in a truly dynamic way. To me, the most sinister arrow in Palantir's quiver, interesting choice of words there, is how they can use our cars to tell where we are at all times. According to a 2013 patent application filed by the company, Palantir devised an interactive vehicle information map system that employs a trove of disparate data sources to search and track vehicles. The patent states that the individual or entity operating this system may view detailed information associated with particular vehicles, including, for example, captured images, vehicle owner data, event history, and the like. Further, the user may export data and/or create search alerts. One of the data sources the patent application refers to is something called automatic license plate recognition, which it says may be accomplished by capturing a vehicle license plate with a camera mounted on a stoplight, on a law enforcement's vehicle, on a tow truck, or on any other type of vehicle and/or near a road, and then using optical character recognition to read the license plate. So we know they have license plate readers on the vehicles now, but what this says is they can also put these devices at various places on highways and roads. And if they do that and they access the system, that means that just like they used to do in CSI when it wasn't real, now it is real, they can search this program for this license plate number. They can say, please let me know when you find this. And when that license plate number runs through any of these various sensors, they're going to get a hit, and it will say that vehicle that you requested was here at this time, and it will tell them all the information about the vehicle that they can gather using sensors on stoplights, maybe on trees on the side of the road, on all public vehicles, whether they be power vehicles or water vehicles or police vehicles. They will be able to create another Internet of Things that's tracking every movement that happens with anything on four wheels, which is, of course, something that they would need to do if they are really, truly, eventually trying to abolish private property. In other words, Palantir knows how to figure out where your car is based on traffic cameras that could hypothetically be anywhere, and if they're looking for you, they can find you if you drive past one. Additionally, if their system picks you up, the person using it can look at your event history, which shows them your previous traffic incidences such as accidents, criminal events, law enforcement activities, for example, traffic citations, and the like. Here's a little screenshot from the patent, and that's the patent itself if you ever want to look it up. But the most interesting coverage I found of Palantir was actually in a U.S. news article that is generally a financial article. And they're looking at Palantir from a political/financial aspect instead of looking at it from an intelligence/data aspect. And I find it very interesting the similarities between Palantir and other shady companies that involve CIA seed money. Never profitable and dogged by ethical objections for assisting in the Trump administration's deportation crackdown. Palantir forged ahead Wednesday with a direct listing of its stock, gaining 31% in its first trading day. Okay, it's another one of those CIA seed money companies that's never profitable and yet somehow never goes under, just like the voting machine companies. Somehow this company has never been profitable and it's supposedly hated by the trading community, and yet it gained 31% on its opening trading day. So you have a never profitable company that gained 31% on its first trading day. Now, why would you be investing in an unprofitable company like that? Isn't that strange? And, you have to forgive the mainstream corporate media's bias, but there is a piece of information there that Palantir not only has helped Health and Human Services, which is all we've covered today, and then it said various police services with the vehicle registration, but now we know they were involved in the ICE crackdown on illegal immigrations. They created a subsystem for that as well. Rather than selling newly minted shares to raise money, Palantir listed existing shares for public trading. After a delay, trading began after noon and the stock closed at $9.50 after reaching a peak of $11.42. The low-key stock strategy was in character for a secretive company long reliant on spies, cops, and the military as customers, and whose founders are keeping voting control of the company. So what he's saying there is that Peter Thiel he continues to have a lion's share of the company's stocks, and he doesn't want to create any more stocks to give other people power inside of the company. He's rather relisting stocks that he's already had so that other people can buy stocks, or that he can buy more of his own stock back. So basically what that means is he's not trying to find any new people to buy into his stock, but he's hoping that people will buy the existing shares, people who maybe want favors. The company sets itself apart from most US technology providers and just moved its headquarters to Denver from Silicon Valley. Interesting. I've never covered a video about why they moved to Denver, but maybe I could. Palantir colors itself patriotic and belittles other tech firms that won't unquestionably support U.S. dominance in warfighting and intelligence. And like I said, this is a corporate media news article, but they're not wrong there. In its IPO prospectus, Palantir paints a dark picture of faltering government agencies and institutions in danger of collapse and ripe for rescue by a central operating system forged under Thiel's auspices. As the offering is structured, Thiel will be the dominant voice among the Palantir co-founders who will retain voting control of the company. In their prospectus, Palantir says that they see government agencies as faltering because they're not addressing data science in the correct way. And what his argument is that we need basically a core operating system, a core governmental operating system that can be built upon. So instead of having to create a separate system for DHS and ICE and FBI, instead of having to create all those separate systems, basically create this core system, and then you can build on it like Legos based on the specifics that the specific government agency needs. And in that way, you don't have to keep recoding from the ground up. This is exactly what Smartmatic and Dominion did. And because of that, the initial code that was put into the Smartmatic machines during the Maduro/Hugo Chavez administration is now in every voting machine in the world, basically, because of this approach. So for me to say I disagree with it is an understatement. I believe that we have a republic because the best thing to do is to break up power. I believe we have separations of power because the best thing to do is to break up power. And I believe that giving the federal government one unified operating system would really not work to my benefit in that regards. So I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Peter Thiel and all the other crazy people that want to do this. Then there are Palantir's fundamentals, which Galloway considers lousy. The company has just 125 customers in 50 countries, including Airbus, Merck, Credit Suisse, and the Danish National Police. Slightly less than half of its 2019 revenues were from government agencies. And 3 clients, which Palantir did not name, accounted for almost a third of its revenues. So they have these unnamed clients, and 3 unnamed clients provided almost a third of their revenue. Think about that. If you were, say, a nefarious actor and you knew that Palantir was creating a system to track, I don't know, vaccines called Tiberius, and you really wanted to influence that in some way, shape, or form, well, Peter Thiel owns the controlling shares of Palantir. And so if you invest in Palantir as a customer, say you have a company and you tell the world or you make it known you want a small system to track your packages at your corporation, so you pay Palantir 1/3 of its total income for the year so that you can gain access to the things that Palantir is creating systems for. My point is that no data collection company that works with intelligence agencies should be able to hide 1/3 of its revenue stream by saying that that the three customers will remain anonymous. It doesn't work. They are massively unprofitable, and they've never been able to figure it out, Galloway said, noting that it took Google 3 years to earn a profit and Amazon 7 over a much longer span. Palantir has accumulated $3.8 billion in losses, raised about $3 billion, and listed $200 million in outstanding debt as of July 31st. My point to you is it doesn't matter. This company is not going to go under. Whenever the seed companies are successful, like in the case of LifeLog and Facebook, then all the better. But when they're unsuccessful, they are not going to go under. They will be repurchased by shell corporations. They will still be in operation, maybe under a different name, but they're never going to let the idea that it was created for go away. And so you see these companies that have horrible ratings financially, but they are always just fine. You know, like CrowdStrike. Before the Tiberius system, this is what Palantir offered. Palantir offers two software platforms. Foundry is designed to link disparate and largely incompatible data sources into a central operating system. It's the company's primary hope for broadening its business. So it takes separate information data streams and it allows them to be compiled in one central place. So like they said with the Tiberius system, if you wanted to compile all the information from all the pharmacies, all the information from all the distribution centers, and all the information from the doctors into one spot, you could use this system. Now, they've obviously created Tiberius, which is going to be slightly different, but we read that they want the central operating system. So my bet is that Foundry and Tiberius both use the same core operating system. An earlier product, Gotham, has been used by defense and intelligence analysts and police departments to identify patterns deep within data sets. But the value of predictive policing tools developed with the platform have been questioned for their potential to unfairly target people of color. The New Orleans and New York City police departments have used it. Okay, we covered that. That's also what Chicago is using. And it is predictive policing. That's exactly what it is. A 2017 research paper by the University of Texas sociologist Sarah Brain, who studied the Los Angeles Police Department's use of Gotham, found the software could lead to a proliferation of unregulated personal data collected by the police from commercial and law enforcement databases. She says that what could happen is there could turn out to be a central operating system that compiles data from all of those different places in the same spot. And the reason why I started that episode about Chicago and the data centers is because the Chicago police chief was on television and he said, within minutes of seeing the riots being planned on Facebook, we had deployed our forces to where those posts had suggested. And I was like, wait a minute. So you guys have a data center that's monitoring certain people's Facebook accounts? Yup, not certain people, basically everyone's. Palantir's ICE contracts involve the maintenance and improvement of two tools used in deportation raids. Court records and federal documents show one is web-based Falcon, for which Palantir enhanced the data accessible to investigators involving the illegal movement of people into, within, and out of the United States, according to documents obtained by the nonprofit Electronic Privacy Information Center. In a Freedom of Information request, the other is the Integrated Case Management System. So now Palantir has created an integrated case management system for all the various police departments, three-letter agencies to combine their compiled data. But this program, Falcon, they're talking about how it's a move against illegal immigrants and it's racist, but they're missing, they don't see the forest through the trees. Again, it says involving the illegal movement of people into, within, and out of
the United States. Well, that phrase becomes a lot different when you consider, well, what is illegal? Because, everybody's thinking undocumented immigrant, but what if it's illegal to move from state to state? Because it does say within. We all heard Trump talking about putting in the digital detection system down at the border where it would be a bioscanner to get in and out. But this system that they're talking about would be used to track American citizens if it ever became illegal to move from place to place, which this CV crisis, we came darn close to it happening, and if there's a Biden presidency, it may truly happen. So Palantir, who put forth this big face, this patriotic face, is really creating systems that help the United States government spy on its own people. Real patriotic, Mr. Thiel. Real patriotic. I'm talking about this because I've got some new information that I've been working on about the roll up your sleeve. And I'm just going to kind of tease it out right now, but it has to do with the temperature at which it's kept. That as science progresses, we are starting to see these, like the D-Wave supercomputers. Now, I know that quantum computers are evolving and they're becoming to where they don't have to operate at such a cold temperature, but when they were first created, they had to be kept at absolute zero. It's something about keeping things super cold that I feel like it's just a feeling. It's just my gut, guys. But I feel like there's some kind of congruent thing there. There's something that it's something I'm missing, and I don't quite know what it is. If you have thoughts on it, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you look at all the science that has to be done super cold, it's all the same science that we talk about all the time. CERN, D-Wave. I don't know what the commonality is there. Maybe it's just because I'm an idiot, and that's quite possible. But anyways, guys, I got a bunch of episodes coming. I love y'all. Like, share, sub the channel. Peace.